ones who go out make money, they send back home to families. The ones who are here, they keep them.
Right. Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Transport, Works and Water Resources and Parliamentary Representative for St. Michael South East, the Honourable Santia Bradshaw. Minister of State in the Ministry of Education, Technological and Vocational Training and Parliamentary Representative for St. James South, the Honourable Sandra Husbands. Chief Executive Officer of Pineland's Creative Workshop, Ms. Sophia Graves. Chairman of the Board of Management of the SJPI, Mrs. Corrine Kennedy Tate. Principal of the SJPI, Mr. Ian Drakes. Deputy Principal Academic, Mrs. Brenda Osborne. Deputy Principal Administration, Ms. Andrea Bathwaite. Specially invited guests, senior officers and heads of division of the SJPI, esteemed colleagues, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, good morning.
Good morning.
I am Ms. Hurley, the NVQ coordinator here at the SJPI, and it is with great pleasure and excitement that I welcome you this morning for the launch of the Satellite Training Program. Today is a truly momentous occasion that marks the culmination of dedication and collaborative effort between the SJPI and the Pinelands Creative Workshop. This satellite training initiative is also a critical component of the Facilitating Inclusive Development in Communities program. Throughout the ceremony, you will learn more from our distinguished guests, as well as the profound impact it promises to have within the selected communities, as it is designed to elevate skills and enable persons to embark on a journey of lifelong learning. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in extending a warm welcome to our first speaker, Mr. Ian Drakes, Principal of the SJPI, as he delivers the opening remarks.
Thank you, Master of Ceremonies. Good morning to all.
Good morning.
And the exciting time continues at the SJPI. Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Transport, Works and Water Resources and Parliamentary Representative for St. Michael South East, the Honourable Santia Bradshaw. Minister of State in the Ministry of Education, Technological and Vocational Training and Parliamentary Representative for St. James South, the Honourable Sandra Husbands. Chief Executive Officer of Pineland's Creative Workshop, Ms. Sophia Graves. I'm not sure if you have a representative here from Maria Holder Memorial Trust, Ms. Rochelle Roach. Chairman of the Board of Management of the Samuel Jackman Prescod Institute, Corrine Kennedy Tate. Deputy Principals Osborne and Braffett of the SJPI. Specially invited guests, Head of Division and Senior Officers and SJPI staff, and of course the media. Again, a warm welcome to you all. And this, as I said, is the exciting time. And this has been long in coming, as the SJPI extends now the community reach of our responsibility as the premier technical vocational education institution in Barbados. And this speaks to that, where we now are taking the trade into the community. You know, they say Muhammad can't come to the mountain, so we have to take the mountain to Muhammad. And I'm happy and excited that we have the support of all of our representatives as it relates to what we have been doing with the Pineland's Creative Workshop in terms of coming out of our MOU. This is part of that brainchild. We also bring in our students for scholarships on the Pineland's Creative Workshop as well. And I'm happy to have our Minister Family Representative Constitutions as well, the Honourable Sandra Husbands, so I know she's beaming, and we're going to make sure that the Deputy Prime Minister also gets the beam, because we've started those conditions and negotiations to create external satellites in terms of taking the trade to those persons who may not be able to afford the bus fare. We are not in a position, and I don't have to wait till the end said, we're not a rich society. So we can't be giving everybody bus fare and lunch money and every time we do a training program. So here now we're going to bring it and take it to them. And we're taking our premier instructors to guide this process, so that in relation to what you're getting recognition and a quality SJPI certificate. is what you be getting when we do these types of programs. Gone are the days of a participation certificate. We can all move away from here and get one of those this morning. We no longer think that our persons in the industry desire for that. We have seen quite recently that Bex is even looking to send our persons to Canada in the trades, electricians and so on. And therefore, we have to throw away the box and just reimagine. And this is all part of the transformation. And so SJPI has put their hand up and said, we are ready, and we are wonderfully launching this morning with that type of enthusiasm and excitement. And I want to appeal to the Barbados public, get into your district and find out what is going on, what trades they're being offered. We're starting with some technical trades like AutoCAD and so on. And I saw that the CEO of Finance Creative Workshop will be adding to that. So just to give you those kind of nuggets of where we are and welcome you to this historical moment. And I take this time to say, welcome, the excitement continues with the SJPI. I thank you.
Thank you, Principal Drakes, for your opening remarks. These are exciting times indeed. I think the institution is quite fortunate to have a principal who has such enthusiasm and excitement, as he puts it, for enabling lifelong learning. I now take this opportunity to invite the Chief Executive Officer of the Pineland Creative Workshop, Ms. Sophia Graves, to share her remarks on this training initiative. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Ms. Sophia Graves.
Good morning to everyone.
Good morning.
Honorable Santia Bradshaw, Deputy Prime Minister, Minister of Transport, Works and Water Resources, and also the Parliamentary Representative for St. Michael South East, the Honorable Sandra Husbands, Minister of State in the Ministry of Education, Technological and Vocational Training, and Parliamentary Representative for St. James South. My honored colleagues of the Pineland's Creative Workshop, Ms. Durant, Mr. Gittins, Mr. Grant, principals of the Samuel Jackman Prescod Troop and other members of staff, board and management of Samuel Jackman Prescod Polytechnic, media, friends and family, also my colleague from the Ministry of Labor, we work closely together as well, Ms. Maureen Boring. Welcome to all of you. Now, as Mr. Drake sort of said, we would have signed an MOU with the Samuel Jackman Prescod Polytechnic on December 6th at 10 a.m. in 2022. And at that time, we made sure that the MOU was just not a file that sat on the shelf and caught dust, but one that went into action almost immediately. It became a constant relationship of moving from signing to action. That's what our mandate was between myself and Mr. Drakes, and to also cement the continuity of what the organizations believe in and wanted to do for the respective locations. And we have done that. As he said, we would have facilitated entry of persons who otherwise would not have had the opportunity to join the team here and gain skills at SJPI. And now we have worked on this particular initiative for the last couple of months, and I must be grateful to the team that he assigned to me, Ms. Hurley and Mr. Jackman and the others that reviewed curriculum, and I'm indeed grateful to you for that commitment, that support, and that shared vision in making this happen. We thank you so much. Now, the official launch of the satellite program, which speaks to facilitating inclusive development in communities. This initiative is part of our multidimensional approach to resilience and adaptability, supported by the Maria Holder Memorial Trust. Now, this program speaks to inclusive development to proactively address exclusion by promoting inclusion. This program is intentional, proactive, is a proactive effort to narrow the gap and improve accessibility to educational opportunities, especially for those persons who are excluded because they do not have the required entry requirements, those who are excluded because they are unable to secure qualifications during their educational life, those who are excluded because they need to retool themselves and therefore unemployed or underemployed, male or female, and therefore finding themselves in a disadvantaged position. This program is for single-head households seeking to upward mobility in their current place of employment or looking to change their career path. This is for school leavers, new entrants to the job market, or those that don't have the financial space to invest in continuing education. Exclusion can come in very forms, shapes, and sizes. But for young people, poor education and unemployment has been cited to be the main determinant of social exclusion. Social exclusion goes beyond just income poverty or beyond economic marginality, but also can have cultural, political dimensions. Youth right now and the exclusion of those youths have been linked to their socio-economic situation of their parents, whether their work status, their financial resources, their education, single parenthood, the absence from family support, have been identified as some of those key predictors of social exclusion for you. This program seeks to pull back that kind of exclusion and allow persons to have their first opportunity to regain some ground. Now, we understand clearly the risks of social exclusion, which can have intergenerational effects, such as cumulative disadvantage, which is passed on from one generation to the next. As an organization, we at the Pineland have experienced exclusion, being branded as P for Pine, Perry, and Prison, and has worked with a high level of determination to transform this brand to a more positive imagery, calling for intentional, innovative, proactive approaches to develop and socially re-engineer our community. We have our colleague here, Peter Skeet. We have worked closely, and in that time, and we were of a younger time, Peter and Rodney, would have worked closely using the Pioneers model to rebrand Haynesville, who were going through a similar plight. Over the years, we have continued to work together in many areas, including the creative arts, and more recently under this Maria Holder project, the Mara project. Now, we are looking to balance the unequalness as it relates to exclusion, and recognizing that education can be used as that instrument to craft out a path to social inclusion, thereby affording greater participation in society through access to opportunity and resources. We have, over time, pilots continue to engage in research and engaging with our partners to understand the current climate. And we recognize that although we have our CXCs and our CADE, there is a recognizable gap where the professional skills needed to enter the job market is not there. Using the collection of qualifications as the sole transitory strategy or accepted ready-to-work standard creates a disconnect that disadvantages the new entrants, those who are unemployed or underemployed, those who do not possess the means to invest in themselves by way of continuing education, are placed in a vulnerable and disadvantageous position. This bold step takes a creative and a more inclusive pro-people development into mind that allows the whole of the society to be fully engaged and able to actively contribute to national development, and more personally to realize their personal and family development plans. And initiatives such as this can begin to decrease the numbers in terms of those at risk of exclusion from employment over an extensive period, thereby reducing the potential adverse or scarring effect on the individuals as to how they view society, they view market, and the world. The time for development to be balanced, meaning whether you are in a community or beautiful confines of SJPI, the quality of education of this should be the same. We have the opportunity to pioneer accessible education that takes into account a variety of student characteristics, abilities, and preferred learning styles, do not compromise academic rigor, is a proactive and inclusive way of teaching and designing courses and curriculum, remove barriers to learning before they can affect anyone, and reducing the need for specialized accommodation. This program has sought to put that into perspective, to reality, and incorporate it into this initiative. We are changing how education is accessed and delivered. It is the intention, with further support and the inclusion of other partners, to replicate the satellite program in all communities in Barbados. We at Pineland look forward to working with our parliamentary representatives, our community partners, and SJPI to present this pilot. We are also looking forward to the further opportunity to engage all sectors, the donor community, development agencies, as we look forward to extending this program nationally. Ministers, colleagues, friends, principals, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you so much, Ms. Graves. I must say that your commitment, you and your team, your commitment to community-driven initiatives is truly commendable, and we certainly look forward to working with Pinelands in the future as we, seek to provide education and training opportunities that are accessible and inclusive for all. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me now in extending a warm welcome to our next speaker, the Honorable Sandra Husbands, Minister of State in the Ministry of Education, Technological and Vocational Training.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It really is with pleasure that I'm here this morning. I cannot express to you how proud and how happy I am that such a program is going to be executed in Barbados to help our children, our young people who have not been able to get a chance to improve their lives. And I want to start by asking you please to give a round of applause to SJPI, to Pineland's Creative Workshop, to the Haynesville team, and everyone who is involved in this, because this is a life-changing experience. Please. I'm happy to be here with my colleague, the Honourable Santia Bradshaw, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Transport, Works and Water Resources, as well as I don't remember seeing the President, the Chair. No, not here. I also want to acknowledge Mr. Ian Drakes, Principal of SJPI, and all other members present here who are contributing to this particular program, as well as to the members of the media. So I want to welcome you to this launch of the Pineland's Creative Workshop and the Samuel Jackman Prescod Institute of Technology satellite program called Facilitating Inclusive Development in Communities. I want to thank the Pineland's Creative Workshop for this invitation and to thank the management as well as SJPI and the Maria Holder Memorial Trust for embarking on such an initiative. Now, the Ministry of Education, Technological and Vocational Training fully supports this initiative. I just want to take a moment to explain why. Barbados is a small island. It has something like 270,000 people. At the moment, between 35 to 40% are over the age of 50. It means we cannot afford to lose one young person from our economy to make sure that they can earn the very best, because a small group of people are going to have to carry the aged population of Barbados. Making sense? So this commitment, this collaboration, this volunteerism to work together to try to provide for our young people an escape hatch, an exit from a life of going nowhere to a life where they can dream, imagine what they want their lives to be like, and have the opportunity to actually create that life. That is what this program is about. Therefore, as a ministry, as a partner to this project, it is important because we are right now focusing on education transformation. Why? Because we cannot have 40% of our children leaving school without some form of certification. It is not sustainable. And what that means for us is that right now we are working assiduously on developing a program for transformation. We're looking at designing the pathway, designing the curriculum to change what we're teaching our children and how we teach them. We've already commenced education for our teachers, helping them now to make the transition to new methods of teaching. What we want is for school to be fun. We want school to be stimulating. We want to create children who are interested and curious and want to learn and want to demonstrate their skills, having learned. But we can only do that if we approach it in the right way. Now, where does this program sit within that context? We have had many years of a number of children coming out having failed to receive certification. We can't allow them to go to waste. We now have to be as careful as God is when he said that a sparrow does not drop to the ground unless he knows about it. We have to make sure that we are as vigilant and we are as committed to our young people that we know when somebody is dropping and we know what to do in order to reincorporate them into a life development program. And that is why I'm excited about this. We are very supportive of any arrangements that seek to form partnerships, collaborations, or to facilitate improvement in business and social practices to increase our capacity to achieve world-class status. This program was formulated to facilitate inclusive training and learning development in communities. It is an important initiative that seeks to increase the skill sets of persons within our society. The initiative is being delivered through a multidimensional approach to resilience and adaptability project. One of the things I wish for the group as we work with them in this program, that they get a sense of who they are and the value that they each possess. One of the things that is often missing from our training of children is helping them to understand that their potential exists in seed form. So if you look at a tree, a big, big tree, where does it come from? A tiny seed. But what happens as you water it, as you care it, that tree, the potential in that seed will break out and produce a massive tree that will produce continuing fruit to create other trees. That is what each of our children are, a seed. That we have the responsibility to water, we have the responsibility to nurture and support so that they can develop and become powerful trees in our nation. So I want to end by saying to you, good work, well done. And I also want to say to the rest of Barbados, there's a lot of work to move our country forward. And I want to say that each of us has to put our hand to the plow. What that means is that each of us must find a place of service, maybe volunteering at a school, at a senior citizen's home, maybe being able to do lessons online with some of our children who have missed a lot of education because of COVID. There are ways to serve. And the good example set by Haynesville and set by the Pineland Creative Workshop is one that I want to ask you to emulate. Find a place of service and give back to your community so that we can build a strong Barbados.
Thank you, Minister Husbands, for your impassioned remarks and expressed support for this program. We are proud to play such a critical role in the educational transformation of Barbados. It is now my distinct honor, ladies and gentlemen, to welcome our final speaker for this morning, our Deputy Prime Minister, the Honorable Cynthia Bradshaw, to deliver her remarks.
Pleasant good morning to each and every one of you. My colleague Minister of State in the Ministry of Education, Technological and Vocational Training, Sophia Graves, the CEO of Pineland's Creative Workshop, my favorite principal, and I make no bones about it, Mr. Ian Drakes, And I believe the Maria Holder Trust should be represented here as well, but again, a big hello to them as well. I see my colleague, Mr. Rodney Grant, and members of the Pineland Creative Workshop here as well. And again, a warm welcome and thank you to everyone who has made it here this morning. I'm sure you could be doing a lot of other things, but you have chosen to be here in the presence of this particular launch event. Now, as my favorite principle says, these are truly exciting times, right? Right, Mr. Drix? And I am pleased to be here this morning at this launch event. I recall being at the time minister when many discussions were taking place between Pineland's Creative Workshop and SJPI with Mr. Drakes regarding opening up the facility more to be able to allow more young people who had fallen through the cracks to be able to take advantage of learning within this type of facility. In many cases, the persons could not meet the entry requirements of basically all of the things that we are here talking about today in terms of why this program has come about. Some of them had, may have had kids, they were uncertain about what they wanted to do in life. And again, you recognize, I think, that we needed to create an environment where people could have options if they wanted to have what we refer to as a second chance at education. Today is very significant, therefore, because, in everything there's a journey. And I know it has taken effort to get to this point, a lot of discussions, a lot of other programs have come in between as well. Mr. Drake's here with SJPI, who I know have been working with the construction gateway, for instance. So there have been other factors which I think have taken a little while and gotten in the way of the program actually being able to see the light. And I'm pleased that SJPI was again at the forefront of being able to lead on Construction Gateway. We've just agreed to extend the program even further just at Cabinet last week. And I think that speaks to the testimony of the work that SJPI has been doing. And also their commitment to being able to find different ways to be able to deliver programs to the general public and in particular to our young people. But I want to applaud the efforts of both institutions, and in particular, obviously, Sophia and Mr. Drakes, because I feel as though you've built on the foundation that was already laid. Mr. Grant is here. I know he would have preceded Ms. Graves, and Mr. Drakes, you would have been preceded as well by another principal who would have understood the ideology, the philosophy of what Pinelands wanted to accomplish. And both of you have been able to, in a sense, take the baton and pretty much run with it. And that is certainly commendable. It is commendable because you understand from Pineland's Creative Workshop side, you understand what is happening in communities, the dynamics of why people are not able to be engaged or to engage. You understand the challenges that people are facing on a daily basis, trying to balance, work, how to balance and juggle family life, and how to better themselves. And I think the good thing with Mr. Drakes and this institution is that this institution started as an institution which at first I think many people kind of disregarded, because who would have thought that we would be focusing so much on technical and vocational training back then? And that it would have become kind of like the buzzword as it has become today. Because back in the olden days, 20, 30 years ago, there were a number of skills training facilities all across the country. And that was the start of the decentralization of skills within communities. We then had the establishment of the SJPI, now the Institute of Technology as well. And that created an avenue for persons who, for the most part, may not have been academically inclined in terms of going off to university or being within the other established professions, but gave people an opportunity who were good with their hands, who were, in a sense, academic in the other fields of technical and vocational training, an opportunity to be able to get that level of certification to be productive citizens in the country. And the leadership of SJPI has obviously embraced its role and understood its mandate in being able to carve out a niche for itself in the technical and vocational training area. Now, I make a joke from time to time that, truthfully, as an attorney, I think that the persons who are doing the technical and vocational things make more money than I would have done when I was a lawyer. And the truth is that lawyers still need all of the people that you train at this institution to do all the things that we cannot do. So I have begun to feel more and more, even in my role as Minister of Public Works, and certainly when I was Minister over Water, that the plumbers and the electrical engineers and the mechanical engineers and all the people that pass through this particular institution are in truth and in fact way more important than any doctor, any lawyer could possibly be. And so that shift and that change in mindset is something that has taken a number of years for us to get to this point where these types of skills and this type of institution is important. Many times I think we always say to kids, you have to become a lawyer, you have to become a doctor, you have to become a nurse, you have to become these things, without recognizing that really there are now so many other opportunities that people can excel in. And I think what this program has the potential to do, especially as it is decentralized into communities, is to give people a new way of thinking, to build on what has already been done thus far, but also to allow themselves to see themselves as though they can attend SJPI. Because for many, they do not see that perhaps this institution is for them. These are real issues that we face in our society where, young people coming up don't think that that institution, which is just across from the Pine, is a place that they're supposed to go, or that you must have 10 certificates in order to get into the institution, not realizing that over the years, because of its leadership and because of the influence of other entities like Pinelands, that those conversations have been taking place to be able to change the way in which the institution views itself. When I was former Minister of Education, Mr. Drakes and I would have long conversations, and you'll come to understand why we were such good friends, and certainly he's one of my favorites. But we would have long conversations about the same thing, that this institution is just across from St. Michael's Southeast. But the question of how many people from St. Michael's Southeast are participating in the programs of the institution. We would have conversations about whether it was, programs that they were doing here, the challenges that you would sometimes face when you allow people into the program to give them an opportunity, but then you are challenged because the persons may not have had the basic foundations of the mathematics and the English, and then it presents an equal burden then on the teaching staff to be able to have to modify their teaching and their training to be able to make those persons be included. So we had long conversations about this because I feel that an institution like this has a role to play, not just for the people who have several certificates, but it has a role to play in bringing people along. And the truth is that this is what the focus is and the mandate of this government, to make sure that we bring people along. Saying that education must not leave anybody behind isn't just a nice catchphrase. From the days of Prime Minister Motley as Minister of Education and right through the years, we have always felt that whether it were children with disabilities, whether it was people who came from vulnerable households, it didn't matter where you came from, but that we had a responsibility to ensure that everybody had an equal opportunity, a little bite at the cherry of being able to play a part as a productive citizen in the country. And so when we talk now about, as Sandra said earlier, about education reform and education transformation, it is not by chance that we speak in this way. Because I am startled every time I hear the figures of how many persons are being left behind, how many people come out without certificates. And that is what makes us as a government so urgent in the agenda to bring about educational transformation. It must not be that we are satisfied as a society in people coming out of school without certificates. It must never be that we are satisfied that people are not sure of their options that are available to them. It must never be that people feel as though they've been discarded because they didn't go to a particular school, and therefore they're not part of a fraternity of brothers and sisters. Those things must never be the things that as a society that we settle for. And that is why this type of inclusive program becomes so important, because it is intended to send the message that we are attempting to be inclusive of everybody, that everybody has an opportunity to be a part of an institution like this, whether in the community, at a resource center, or whether it is at some point being able to come here, or whether it is indeed to be able to do the online learning. COVID taught us as a society that technology, knowing the basics in terms of how to communicate online, are critical things to our survival. We don't know when the next pandemic is going to come or what other things may emerge in the course of certainly our lifetime. I don't think any of us ever expected to live through a pandemic. And what it certainly taught us is that, yeah, we have to put technology at the forefront of whatever we do. We have to have the basic skills in maths and English, and it's never too late to be able to learn and to grasp those skills. And so I want to compliment the team for being able to look at those initial skills that would be introduced into this particular program. Also the AutoCAD program, because, you know, the truth is, I think a lot of the research suggests that anybody can learn AutoCAD. AutoCAD is not something that is you have to have 8 certificates in order to do it. It just requires, as with most things, being able to apply yourself. I mean, I feel right now like I'm a road builder because I've applied myself to my ministry, and therefore I am a firm believer that I am in lifelong learning, because once you apply yourself, you are able to understand and to relate to the very basic principles. I may not be able to go and build the road, but I understand what is required in terms of what those who work on domain, who are technical, have to do. And similarly, when I was in education, I had to learn from my principals and all of the other education staff the basics. So therefore, if I can do it, I have not stopped learning. I continue to learn. I think that these types of programs are intended now to inspire, to wake up the psyche of our people to recognize that learning does not end when you leave school. That not leaving without certificates is the be-all and the end-all. That wanting to change professions is now something that is frowned upon. I think, overseas, I remember when I was at university, there were young people who were taking out a gap year, I think they call it, and I could not imagine telling my father, Rodney, that, Brady would have had a fit, that I wanted to take a year's break and then decide what I wanted to do. It just couldn't happen, because that's not part of the Barbadian psyche. You study and you study and you study till you have a good job, and then you settle down and you do what you're supposed to do. But we are all part of now a global space where we see people shifting careers. We see people doing subjects online, being able to live in Barbados and work in Barbados, and being able to be employed in other territories, right? So we are now part of a global landscape that either we get with the times or we're going to get left behind. And I think a large part of what I see Pineland's doing, and certainly SJPI, with this program is making sure that we are not left behind within the communities. I welcome too the fact that the program is going to be done during the daytime. Again, it's convenient for those parents who are those persons who are parents who will obviously have their children in care and will be able to participate. It's not for a long period of time, so it still gives them that opportunity to be able to participate. For the ones who are looking at the distance in terms of where they have to go, well, that factor has been taken care of because it's within a community, so there's no excuse. As I was coming in, I was asking whether there was a stipend, because I also know that that has been a big issue as well. And maybe at some point you may have to, again, understand the individual's background and their issues, because sometimes there may need to still be a helping hand for some of the persons depending on the circumstances. The simple point is that PM always says you have to hear and you have to see people. And even as educators, you have to be able to appreciate that everybody will not come to this application process with the same attributes. One of the things that we've seen that has been a challenge over time with some of the programs has been the different ages of persons within a room when they apply. You may have some young people who are not as mature. You may have older persons who have, seen several stars pitch. And when you put them all into a room, sometimes there are challenges. And I think we've recognized that we have to find a way to cater for those situations so that the person who is more mature doesn't feel uncomfortable in an environment where, our young people are always on the cell phone and, communicating in a way that many of them do not understand, with all the abbreviations that come with it. So those are things that, again, you have to be clued in on the emotional intelligence. You have to appreciate that these programs will only work if there's also a deep dive into social circumstances that may exist with the individual applicants as well. It is not a one-size-fits-all approach. And I know that between Pineland and certainly SJPI, in terms of its leadership, that there will be that space for the tweaking and the fine-tuning till we get it right. For the applicants, I want to certainly encourage them to get on board and to participate. The success of this program is going to be dependent wholly and solely on your first set of applicants doing well and being able to speak highly of this particular program. And that's why I say that between the two institutions, there must be a tweaking. There must be an understanding of the circumstances surrounding your applicants and seeing how you can support, whether through the institutions or whether through private sector support as well, to ensure that people do not miss classes, or that if they have certain circumstances that we may have to refer them to a social care agency. It isn't for these two institutions to do it all, but if we see this as an all of society approach, all of institution approach, we are able to help carry persons a bit better. And so I would want to implore persons who hear about the program to get on board. There's a short window in terms of the applications. I certainly will do my part in terms of St. Michael's Southeast to be able to encourage persons to participate in this very worthwhile program. I think the government generally has shown through Ministry of Youth and certainly through Ministry of Education, the focus on these types of programs, both in terms of technology, both in terms of, even as a cabinet, you know, sometimes we do hybrid meetings where some people are online, some people are physically in a space. We have changed as a government the way we also deliver instruction and how we receive instruction. And if therefore we are prepared to do it, I think there must be an effort to encourage other people to embrace the technology, to participate in this type of decentralizing of resources, and to encourage people to get on board. But I want to applaud the efforts again of the entire team and to encourage you to better this program. What you have now is not, I am sure, the best program that can be out there. But I think once you start to fine-tune and you start to tweak and you receive the feedback from your students, I think you will be able to match what you have put together here to be able to perfect a program that not only can be in Haynesville and in the Pine, but it will also be able to spread across other areas of each of these communities. And just to say a little bit about the two communities, they are very similar in that both the Haynesville area, the Pinelands area, both are very densely populated communities. There are areas where there's a lot of talent, there's an abundance of talent, and it has given birth to a lot of people who are both creative, intellectual, who have done well. But there are also the realities that we face in one of the largest housing areas. I think Haynesville is probably right behind me, right? And we face the challenge of the overcrowding within a densely populated area. We face the issues of parents having to decide sometimes which children take part in extracurricular activities, which then has an impact on what you decide that you want to do in terms of education after you leave school. Because if the focus is on getting out of school and getting a job, then you have no opportunity to think through what you want to become, because the only thing you're being told to do is to hurry up and get out of school, because you know you're not going to get no certificate, so just hurry up and get out of school and get some money so that you can work. And we must be able to speak to our parents, we must be able to focus in terms of the school setting on being able to change that mindset as well. Because the more that you reinforce that people can continue to do lifelong learning, or you reinforce those positive values in our society, eventually something can sink in. But if you are told constantly that you come from these areas and therefore you can come to nothing, then that is what people start to believe. And so this is a very signal moment in terms of both communities, because it is sending, I think, the message that, you know, they are special in the sense that attention is being paid to the realities that people experience within these densely populated communities. And I certainly would like to see the model replicated over time in other areas where sometimes you have some challenges. Because these are realities. Sandra spoke to it very clearly in terms of what we are facing as a society if we don't get this right. So the burden is on all of us to ensure that we get these types of programs correct. Otherwise, we continue to see mothers holding their belly when children are killed senselessly. We continue to feel the pain within societies when children are left without their fathers because they've been shot down in a shooting. These are our realities, Sandra's and mine. And all we can do is, as politicians do, is to support programs like this, which gives another set of young people an opportunity to see a different option available to them. And it is important that people see this type of program in that context, because without being able to recognize the opportunities, sometimes our young people are not able to seize them. And it is therefore important that we create these types of avenues for people to be able to say, okay, I don't need to be on the block. I don't need to be sitting at home wondering what I'm going to do. I can do something even if I got pregnant early and I had a couple kids. I can still determine that I can change the course of my life. And that is what is so important about these types of programs. I therefore want to wish both entities all the success in the programs, and again to encourage all of you to continue to support. I could not leave without giving the plug that I would like to also see more of corporate Barbados coming on board with these types of activities. The truth is that the Maria Holder Trust has been a beacon in terms of St. Michael's Southeast, in terms of our facilities there, but in terms of also programs and the support for the Pinelands Creative Workshop. And they have demonstrated both in healthcare and in education that they are not, some external company, but people who actually care about Barbadian society and the development of our people. And I think that we need to encourage other companies, other entities, nonprofit organizations to support initiatives like this, where it is being led from the ground. It is being led from the people on the ground who understand what is needed in order to change behavior and to change mindsets. But we need the support financially at many times to be able to support these types of programs. Government is doing its work. You've seen the Building Blocks program. You've seen the Peace program. Those programs are taking place. But in order to bring about the change that is necessary, we need to have a lot more programs that are happening to be able to rescue a number of our young people in particular, but generally people who see themselves as now wanting a second chance at education and educational opportunities. So again, I commend you, and I invite all of you to continue to support and to spread the word about this particular program. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Prime Minister, for your remarks and for really underscoring the importance of such a program within our Barbadian communities. Ladies and gentlemen, we've had the privilege of hearing from each of our distinguished guests, but at this time we would like to take the opportunity to invite questions from the media. If you so desire to ask a question, we ask that you raise your hand and you state your name and your affiliation. Yes, you have a question? Okay. All right, so if there are no immediate questions from the media, we will proceed with the next item on our program, which will be the vote of thanks being delivered by Mrs. Shauna Carter, Guidance Officer here at the SJPI. Please welcome Mrs. Carter.
Thank you. Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Transport, Works and Water Resources, and Parliamentary Representative for St. Michael's South East, the Honourable Santia Bradshaw, Minister of State in the Ministry of Education, Technological and Vocational Training, and Parliamentary Representative for St. James South, the Honourable Sandra Husbands, Chief Executive Officer of the Pinelands Creative Workshop, Ms. Sophia Graves, and other members of the workshop, of the Pinelands Creative Workshop, Principal of the SJPI, Mr. Ian Drakes, Deputy Principals and other members of staff, specially invited guests, members of the media, Good morning to everyone. On behalf of the Board of Management, the management of the SJPI, and staff of the Samuel Jackman Prescod Institute of Technology, and the team at the Pineland Creative Workshop, I extend heartfelt gratitude to each of you for gracing us with your presence today at the official launch ceremony of this satellite training initiative, an integral component of the Facilitating Inclusive Development in Communities program. Over the past few months, our teams have worked diligently to bring this initiative to fruition with the aim of enabling residents in the Haynesville and Pinelands communities to embark on a journey of lifelong learning and skilled development. I therefore take this opportunity to express our most sincere appreciation to our distinguished guests. To our Deputy Prime Minister, we thank you for underscoring the value of technical and vocational skills and the value of the work of the SJPI even in 2024. You also underscored the importance of this present initiative and in order to give the intended participants the opportunity, a second chance, an alternative, not to be left behind. And certainly we value the context that you would have provided for us in ensuring that we form the way to achieve success in this initiative. We also want to thank our Minister of State in the Ministry of Education, Technological and Vocational Training for certainly giving us that little analogy of children existing in the seed form and therefore seeing them as having potential that we ourselves have the responsibility to nurture, to support. And we also thank you for the challenge to us as Barbadians to serve and to build a stronger Barbados. We thank also the CEO, Ms. Sophia Graves, CEO of the Pineland Creative Workshop, for setting that foundation in your delivery, and certainly for helping us to see that solving the issue of exclusion has to include inclusion, and certainly giving us that vision for accessibility to education and technical and vocational training as we would provide in this program. And certainly to our principal, Mr. Drakes, who always is excited at things like this. And we thank you for bringing that enthusiasm and that excitement even to this initiative and to the leadership of this institution. We are all immensely grateful for your insightful and inspirational remarks and your support of this transformational initiative. We also extend our deepest gratitude to Ms. Rochelle Roach of the Maria Holder Memorial Trust for your steadfast support and funding of the multidimensional approach to resilience and adaptability project, which has made this satellite program possible. Your commitment to empowering communities and fostering inclusive development is truly commendable. Acknowledgement must also be given to the dedicated members of the SJPI team who played pivotal roles in this collaborative process. Ms. Janice Hurley, who was our Master of Ceremonies this morning, and certainly we want to thank you for your participation at that level as well. But she is our NVQ coordinator, and we thank her for her exemplary organization of various activities throughout the process and including today's launch. Special thanks to Mr. Kevin Chapman, head of the Division of Distance and Continuing Education, Open and Flexible Learning Center, who audited the facilities and equipment at both training locations, ensuring compliance with educational standards. To Ms. Jane McCollin, head of the Division of Business Studies, and instructors Ms. Simone Knight and Mr. Grantley Jackson for your rigorous reviews of course outlines and materials, ensuring quality control and effective course delivery. Special thanks is also extended to Ms. Julia Ward, our librarian, Mr. Hans Williams, our workshop supervisor, and Ms. Jalicia Paris, supervisor of the custodians along with their respective teams. And we also would want to make mention of Mr. Carter and the helping us with the PA system this morning as well. We thank you all for your contributions in preparing and ensuring that we were comfortable in the Media Resource Center here this morning for the launch. Finally, we also express our gratitude to our communications specialists and members of the media for your presence here and for the crucial role you will play in sharing the stories and successes that will undoubtedly emerge from this program. In conclusion, I extend thanks to all of you. This initiative embodies a shared enthusiasm and determination between the SJPI and the Pinelands Creative Workshop, and we will continue in our collaborative efforts towards building a brighter and more inclusive future for all. Thank you.